Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 79 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 79 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you're new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. If you've been here before, you know I love you deep. Thank you so much for continuing to support me. I'm so glad that you've decided to come back another week. So before we get started with this week's episode, I always like to kind of make sure that we lay a proper foundation. I really feel like we are building a house, a safe space. And with that safe space, we have to make sure that our foundation is built on two very important things. So that is love and clarity. So for clarity, because you got to know why you're here before we kind of even dive into love. Make sure that this is the right fit for you. The Well Done Life podcast is a safe space for women. I created the Well Done Life podcast because I wanted women to have an opportunity to come together, share our stories, learn, grow, and just encourage each other. I think it's really important. Women are the foundation of society, and we don't have a lot of spaces where we can be ourselves. Excuse me. So I want this to be a place where you're able to come together, feel comfortable sharing your story, knowing that you are loved and supported and encouraged. So welcome. And now that we've kind of gotten clarity, let's really talk about my other favorite thing, which is love, because I think that love is the root of everything that we do. So when I like to send love, I want to make sure that I send it with prayers. And Lord knows we all could use lots and lots of prayers. So this week I want to make sure that I am sending prayers of peace, prayers of prosperity, prayers of strength and hope and health, mental and physical, because there are lots of challenges out here. And I mean, we all are going through a lot. We're still dealing with the pandemic, or the panini, or the panorama, as I like to say. And it's just madness. And there's been a lot of attacks on women lately. And I haven't really talked too much about it, especially with some of the laws that have been passed in Texas in regards to abortion. I'm still processing. I'm an empath, and I feel things and I think things. So I have to make sure I kind of sit with my emotions before I speak. But, ladies, if I'm learning anything is we really do have to look out for each other. We're really all we have, and we have to stand up for each other, especially in circumstances when our rights are being taken away. It's amazing to me how people don't want to wear a mask, but then somebody can come out here and tell you what to do with your body. So I'm still kind of like trying to figure out where that makes sense, but I don't think it does, and I probably won't ever find a space, but I am going to talk about that at some point. But that again leads me into why I feel like we need prayers, and we need encouragement. We need to support each other. So hopefully you're taking this time to kind of meditate on how you can do that and what you need. Make sure you are prioritizing your health and happiness, because we are all we have. So now that we've laid the foundation with love and clarity, let's kind of start to dive into this week's episode. First, before I do that, last week's episode preparation, I really first and foremost want to apologize about the sound quality. I really struggled putting that episode out, and I think it came out okay in the end. Still were some hiccups here and there, but essentially, I have to apologize about that. I was on my third time of recording it, but I had to get it out because being able to share that journey with you, of one of my major preparation points, was tough. But I wanted to make sure I shared it because I felt like there's an opportunity to encourage. I really feel like I mentioned in that episode, I'm on a journey of preparation right now. My life is going to shift personally and professionally, but at the same time, I know a lot of you are as well. So I am hopeful that you are able to glean some encouragement to know that when it is your time, there is nothing that is going to stop your time. You just have to surrender to it. And so when I started thinking about that episode, and like I said, outside of the sound quality challenges I had, I started thinking about that I did share my journey, but I didn't share with you maybe some of the things that I did while I was in that season of preparation and what you can do when you're in that season of preparation to surrender. Because, I mean, when we think about it, a lot of times we think that we're surrendering to different processes. You know, you feel like, oh, I've prayed about it, I've given it to God, and I've released it. But we know back in our heart, in our soul, we really haven't. And it's very difficult, especially as women, because we are used to having to be in control of a lot of different situations. And we hold on to things and try to move and manipulate things to have the outcome that we desire. But when you're in this season of preparation, like I was mentioning, you can try all you want and it still is not going to work. Like I mentioned in that last week's episode, and I'm going to link it in the show notes. I had tried to get a house for, years before. But when it just wasn't coming to pass. And I just kept trying to do it how I thought I needed to do it. But when it was my appointed time, when it was my season, and I surrendered to what God wanted for me, when I surrendered what the universe wanted for me, it all came together. And I was able to accomplish in 5 months what I couldn't do in 2 years. So I want to make sure that I give you some tools to help you, because surrendering is hard for women. I mean, like I said, we are used to being in control of most situations. We have to be. We're the ones who are constantly thinking in a lot of instances, and we are the ones who are having to navigate these challenges. So we know we want a certain outcome, and it does not mean that your outcome is not going to happen if you surrender, but you don't have as much control as what you're used to, i.e. the word surrender, and that's why you have to be willing to do it. So I want to help you by giving you some tips in regards to surrender and how you possibly can go into it. Now, I wrote some notes down and I'm definitely going to talk through it, but I tend to always want to be a very foundational person. I mean, if you've listened to me before, you know I love a good dictionary. Merriam-Webster and I go steady together. We are just like close. So of course I was like, I really have to make sure I define what that is, because I don't want any of us to have any preconceived notions about what it is to surrender. We have to be clear, because we are on a journey to do something. So we have to be clear about where we're going. So of course, the definition of surrender, according to Merriam-Webster, is to yield to the power, control, or possession of another upon compulsion or demand. Example, surrendered the fort. Another definition is to give up completely or agree to forego, especially in favor of another. And then another definition is to give oneself up into the power of another, especially as a prisoner, or to give oneself over to something such as an influence. And another one is to give oneself up into the power of another. So again, there are many different definitions of surrender. And actually, those were the verb definitions of it. There also is the one of the noun. So with the noun of definition of surrender, it is the action of yielding one's person or giving up the possession of something, especially into the power of another. The relinquishment by a patentee of rights or claims under a patent. The delivery of a principal into the lawful custody by bail, called also surrender by bail. The voluntary cancellation of legal liability of an insurance company by the insured and beneficiary for consideration. And the delivery of a fugitive from justice by one government to another. Or the other definition listed is the instance of surrendering. So it can be a verb and a noun. Many definitions of surrender, but ultimately it all goes back into yielding one's power, yielding to something else, yielding to a power or to a person, and giving in relinquishment. And when you, like I mentioned, surrendering can be very difficult, because as women, we tend to navigate from a place of control in most instances. And, before we dive into it and things that you can do to surrender, we have to remember there's nothing wrong with surrendering. I mean, really, there is nothing wrong with being able to surrender. A lot of times as women, we struggle with that, not just in surrendering to a path or a journey defined by God or the universe, but even in regards to relationships. I know, that's always difficult because there's so many different stereotypes and defining points around surrendering into a relationship, building that trust with someone where you can surrender, where you could yield to this man's authority or whatever. And, that can be very tricky as well. And I think it's everything is done on a case by case basis. But for the basis of this conversation in reference to surrender, I'm explicitly talking about things that you can do to help you in reference to your journey and being able to accomplish your goals and surrendering to the universe and to God and what he is trying to do in your life. So, a few things that I feel like you have to remember when you are looking to surrender, and things that helped me as I was on my journey, is I got very clear about the fact that it is easier said than done. Like I mentioned previously, as women, we're strong. I know I'm a strong woman. And for me to surrender control to someone or something is very hard. And I had to constantly battle with myself until I learned to recognize and accept the fact that this is not going to be an easy journey. Because if you don't recognize that, that makes it even harder, because you think that you've got it controlled and you kind of get comfortable in that. And you can't get comfortable when you're surrendering, because you have to remember there's still you there. There's still your soul. There's still your ego. There's still your mind. There's still your thoughts. And there's still your emotions. And situations are going to come up that are going to test you. So you have to stay very aware of the fact that this is not an easy journey, which is the second thing that I had to learn. You have to constantly be guarded against distractions. Because, like I said, the universe, yourself, you are still in the process, and killing you to be able to surrender is very challenging. And when I say killing you, I mean killing the ego in you that thinks that you're right. I'm talking about killing the fears inside of you that jump up and make you feel like you can't do this and this isn't the right move. That's what I mean by killing you. So there's a saying that you hear sometimes in church where it's what you want so much more of God and so much less of you. That's what I mean, because it's surrendering to what could be versus what you think it should be. And so that is going to be part of those distractions that you're going to deal with. Not to mention, you will have outside distractions that will come up on that journey. And when you have the outside distractions, I mean, they're going to come from various sources. They can, I'll be honest, come from friends and family who just may not understand what you're trying to do, because maybe you haven't shared that journey with them. Maybe you're still trying to process within yourself how to get it done. And so they could be a distraction point, because you're focused on maybe something that they're going through versus focusing on yourself. Or you have shared with them and they don't agree with the path that you're on. They feel like, oh, I know you can do it like X, Y, and Z, and because this is how I did it. And they are trying to impose their will on you. And you're trying to fight that off, because remember, that's their journey. Everybody's journey is not like one size fits all. It's unique for every person. So you have to be able to push that doubt, those other thoughts and perceptions out, and feel confident in the fact that you're not taking someone else's advice or somebody else's journey onto yourself because you think that might be the shortcut way in order for you to get what you need to get. Because I mean, let's keep it a buck. Sometimes we're all looking for a shortcut versus doing the work. And that's why it led me into the third thing that I say, which is you have to hold yourself accountable when you are doubting. And when you're holding yourself accountable, I mean really accountable when you're doubting, because like I mentioned, doubt is going to come up. You're going to get it from yourself. You're going to get it from the outside. So when you get accountable, that means that you have to sit with yourself and question, why are you feeling this way? and really dig into the answer. Why are you feeling this way? And then ask yourself, what has happened that's triggering you to feel this way? And why are you being triggered? And what past trauma do you need to confront to move forward? Because, like I said kind of earlier in my last episode, when I was in that situation, a preparation to buy my house, remember, I had been trying before and it just wasn't working. It didn't matter how many offers I put out. It didn't matter what I tried to do. It just would not come to pass. So when I was in my season and everything was coming to pass, like I told you too, it still wasn't perfect. Yes, I was able to do it in 5 months, but like I mentioned in last week's episode, I had been so frustrated by so many things that had come up that I literally had asked the loan officer for my mortgage company, do you want a blood sample or the firstborn child that I don't have? Because you guys have asked for everything under the sun in order for this to come to pass. And so fears started to come up within me, like, this might be a replay of what happened. Maybe this isn't true. Maybe God was wrong. This isn't my time. And I had to check myself like, no, this is my time, because I can handle anything that is being asked of me. It's not like I can't provide the information that this woman is asking for. And every time I do, is not rejected. I keep getting questioned. So I'm still going on in the path and it's going to be okay. But I had to check myself and remind myself, this isn't that time. This is a whole new season. And I had to be comfortable with the fact that I was in a whole new season and that I was on my appointed journey right now and I was doing the work. I was facing the challenge head on because that was what I was told to do. And I did it. And it's going to be okay. It's just something that I had to face. But you have to check your past triggers, because your past triggers can have you out here believing that the worst of yourself and of the situation. Your past triggers can pop up on you so hard that you stop and you get stagnant, and then you wait and delay your season. Not that you miss your season, but you delay your season. Because like I mentioned before, and I'm definitely going to say it again, there is not anything that can come in the way of what's appointed for you. What's for you is for you, and it will be there. It will just be a matter of whether or not it happened within the time frames that you have the ability to have, or are you going to delay it because maybe you're not ready for it and you're not doing what you need to do to surrender in that situation in order to get it. So you delay it coming to you, but it's for you. You just have to surrender. So that's something that, like I said, you have to be very accountable when you start to have those feelings, when you have doubts, because you're going to have doubts. I mean, this is something major. Like I said, for me, when I was in that season buying a house, I had lots of doubts. Like I mentioned to y'all before, I didn't even want to see the house I'm in right now because I didn't think, not that nobody else told me I could do this. I didn't think this was for me. I was the one stopping it, believing that I couldn't afford it, that I couldn't have it. And like I mentioned in last week's episode, look how all of that came about. And there's so much more that, like I said, I can't talk about because it just makes me emotional. But like I'm saying this clearly to tell you, you see how it doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter what it seems like. If it's for you, it's for you. So you have to be willing to address any doubts that you have within your heart and in your mind so that you don't block your blessing. And so you're doing that work and you're holding yourself accountable. Then, as a part of that accountability, you have to forgive and acknowledge your fears. And, like I said, holding yourself accountable, you're going to see it. You're going to deal with your traumas. You're going to deal with your fears. You have to forgive that. You have to forgive yourself for that. And you got to get clear about the emotions that you're experiencing. You can't let fear hold you back, and you have to acknowledge it. I wish I had it pulled up, but I will definitely make sure I link it in the show notes. One book that I love is Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I've talked about it on the pod before, but it is a great book for creatives or anyone who is on the journey to trying to fulfill one of their goals. And it is a very intention-driven book. And one of the passages that I love talks about fear and how she's having a conversation with fear. And she tells fear that, I acknowledge your presence and I understand that you are going to be on this journey with me, but I'm placing you in the back seat and you have no voice here. I acknowledge you and I know you're going to be a part of this process with me, but I'm in control. Like, she speaks to her fears. She acknowledges it. She doesn't diminish it, but she's not going to allow it to control the situation. And I think that's a very powerful thing to be able to do, because most of the time, we don't speak to our fears. We allow our fears to speak to us. But when you're in that position where you're trying to accomplish what has been ordained for you, when you are trying to really be vision-minded, really be focused and acknowledging your fear, you have to speak to it. You have to be able to make sure that you realize it, forgive the thoughts of it, and be able to move past it. So I'm going to try to make sure I link that passage in there. And I would definitely recommend that book. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Eat, Pray, Love, which is also another great book as well. But I would definitely recommend having that passage, even if you don't read the entire book, with you, because that passage is a wonderful mantra to be able to help you get accustomed to speaking to your fears, because now you have, a guide of what you should say, and you'd be very surprised. It can help calm you. That's definitely one thing that helps me. And when I'm also on the journey, which I've mentioned before, I read or I recite the 37th Psalm. That's my favorite Psalm in the Bible when I'm going out daily into the world, or when I'm doing different things. It comforts me. It gives me protection and peace. And I definitely feel like you have to also look at maybe different biblical things or spiritual writings and teachings that help you feel confident when those fears start to rise up, that you can recite. Because when you have those mantras, those intentions, they give you confidence to be able to speak to your fears. And they give you confidence to be able to help move forward through it. That's so important, because like I said, this is a tough journey and you need to make sure that you're guarded and armed, and those will be voices and hedges of protection for you on there. Because remember, you're doing a mighty thing, so you want to make sure you do that. And then another thing that I did, and that I had to learn how to remember, because I am a very impatient woman and I tended to be a person who wanted it all right now, is that I had to remember, don't try to eat the elephant all at once. Maybe try taking it one bite at a time. Because when you're making moves in your purpose, when you're making steps in your intention, you're remembering your steps are very ordered. And you cannot allow yourself to be overwhelmed by trying to take it all in at one time. It doesn't work that way sometimes. It's going to be a step-by-step process. And I think about that even when I was in my house situation. Because yes, it took me 5 months to do what I couldn't do in 2 years. But in those 2 years, before I had started to kind of lay the foundation, and then when the 5 months really started getting in, I took everything one bite at a time. And I didn't try to eat it all at one time. I learned that I could fix my credit here. I could save money here. I could do all those things in an ordered fashion, and they would help me be able to accomplish my goals. I think that's really important for people to remember when you are trying to get that. Don't overwhelm yourself. I know we all want to say that we've accomplished our goals, but you can't accomplish a goal all the time, all at one time. Like, all the time, all at one time. It might have sounded a little rhymey, but seriously, especially something major, something big, because when you have a vision, you have to get really clear about it. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, I've been there. I still struggle sometimes. I think even there with my goals, that I make my goals like, okay, well, I want to, let's say I want to save $10,000. And that sounds like a really good goal, but how do you get there? What am I doing to achieve that? What's the time frame that I'm living in, that I'm giving myself, in order to be able to achieve that? You have to be very smart, very specific about your goals. And smart goals are not always just for working in an office. They are part also for your life. And when I mean smart, I'm talking about goals that are strategic and measurable and actionable and realistic and timed, so that you have something set forth that's going to be able to help you achieve your goals correctly. And I don't know if that acronym is completely right. I'm going to check myself, but I will make sure I list it in the show notes as well. But SMART goals are mostly used on a corporate structure because they help managers as well as yourself be able to set goals realistically that can be measured for when you're doing annual performance appraisals or when you're working in projects. But I think you have to treat your life sometimes like with that same business that mindset that you treat the work that you do on your job. And or even if you're pursuing your own personal passions as an entrepreneur, it's very important that you're very realistic and strategic. And that's really kind of goes, like I said, hand in hand when you're trying not to eat the elephant all at once, because a SMART goal is going to allow you to break it up into realistic points so that you can achieve the goal. And that way you're doing everything one point at a time, and not getting overwhelmed and still staying engaged, because that's really going to be part of it. You have to take little baby steps to keep yourself going, because those baby steps are going to help encourage you while you're on the journey. Because that leads into the next one. That was really a very key thing for me as well. You have to write your vision and make it plain. And believe it or not, this is actually something that I got from my pastor at the time, because and I say that because I think a lot of times people have the perception, oh, well, you're going to go to church, going to pray about, yes, we're going to get this house and the pastor's going to pray with you. Absolutely. But the pastor, he also said, look, you need to be very specific about your goals. You need to be very specific about your vision. If this has been laid in your heart that you're going to get a house, then okay, let's write this vision out and make it plain. I mean, be very specific and very intentional about what you're trying to accomplish, and place it somewhere that you can see it daily, and develop a routine where you review it daily so that you can make sure you're doing it the work. Because I mean, hey, we all know God bless the child who's got his own, but God can't bless you if you're not doing your part with it too. He's giving you the vision, and he's giving you the energy, and he's giving you the goal and the intention to go out here and be able to achieve what you need to achieve. But then it's on you. So you have to know that when you are very specific and intentional about your goals and lay it out, you give yourself that roadmap to being able to achieve what you need. So when it was one of the things that I did when I wanted to begin that process more intentionally in buying my house is I really set up and put the vision and made it plain. I wrote specific goals out and I put it on my refrigerator. So every day I would take a look at my goals, and I was very specific about it. At that point, God kind of was like whispering like, okay, you're going to get your credit together. So I literally remember like writing down the specific bills that I needed to make sure got paid, and giving myself like a week or so every time to get them all handled and checked off, like specific times, week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever I needed to get it done, I wrote it out. And so every time I achieved a goal, I would check it off. And so that gave me more motivation to see like, wow, I'm not working in vain. I'm not just out here putting things into the wind. I'm getting this done and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And it's all coming to pass. Like I can really see this. And I didn't just do it like in regards to fixing credit. I did it in regards to trying to save my down payment and do other things that were going to help me prepare during this 5 months. I was still looking at houses. I was still getting pre-approved. I still did all those things while I was sitting here getting all the rest of it together. So it just kind of worked into a nice pie. But I say all that to say how important it is that you get very specific. You have to write the vision. You have to make it plain. You have to have it in front of you daily. You have to check yourself. Ultimately, you got to do the work. Because yes, God and the universe are going to be there to protect you and to guide you and to definitely give you all the intention and blessing you need to achieve it. But the Lord wants you to work too. So you got to work. And then the seventh thing that I did, and the final thing that really helped me on the journey, was I remembered or reminded myself that delayed does not mean denied. Patience is going to be key on this journey. And I mean, patience for real, because like I said, I was getting questioned left and right, and not just by the mortgage, the loan officer, but like I said, I put a bid on a house that was above my price range significantly. And I came back in with a low ball offer because like I told y'all last week, and I don't play about that, I was not eating ramen and beanie weenies for the rest of my life. And I like to buy shoes at that point. I was wearing heels. I used to have such a really cute heel collection. Kind of sort of still do, but you know, as you get older, knee health becomes more critical, but I digress. But anywho, I say all that to say is I wanted to live. And so I was really important to me that I was very financially cautious. So you would be very surprised that I had only saved so much for a down payment. And I was like, look, this is all like surprise, but it all worked out. Let me just put it like that. We made some negotiations. I told you guys last week that his realtor and my realtor came together and everything worked out. Yes, I had to stretch a little bit more, but I didn't stretch myself to the point where I'm house poor. That was not going to happen. I was not about that life. I stood my ground and I had faith and I surrendered to what God told me and it came to pass. But I had to learn that I had to be patient, because I cannot tell you the countless times I thought, oh my God, I'm going to mess this up. It's going to just go away. And that was the language that I used. And I would just talk negatively about myself because, you know, when we get mired by fear, a lot of times the first thing that we do is revert back to speaking about ourselves in a negative way versus realizing that we're still in our season. Our dream is still coming to pass. It's just a small delay. And it's being worked out if we have faith. If we do what we're supposed to do, it'll all come to pass. But you got to speak over yourself with that. And it became a very stressful thing, but it became one of those things that reminded me about the importance of using my words very positively with myself while I was in those seasons. And at the same time, it also became very important for me to remember to live. And I mean, still, just try to go out and do things and enjoy life. Don't become so preoccupied by every little delay, every little circumstance that you forget to keep going. Because remember, this is about surrender. You have surrendered to what is for you. You are doing the work to make sure that what is for you is going to come to pass. So you got to trust. You can't keep carrying. Really, you can't carry it. God can't carry it together too. Like both of y'all just cannot be in control. So ultimately, you have to be willing to step back and you have to be willing to truly trust the process and do the work. And that's so important because, like I said, it's going to come to pass. Even though you may not feel like that dream is, it is. But we have to be able to trust it. And I know that is a really hard thing to do. But the best thing I could say during that time is to lean back in regards to your faith. Like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the 37th Psalm and the mantras, even from other religious aspects, whatever you believe that brings you comfort and joy, you need to lean into those seasons because those seasons are going to help you remember that you are delayed and not denied. And those seasons and those mantras are going to help you remember that you are worthy of this. Don't let fear come back and allow you to speak over yourself in such a way that you are giving credence to something that is not true. Fear is truly just false evidence appearing real. And you cannot take that evidence, that false evidence, into yourself. You have to be willing to recognize that this is just a matter of emotion. And if I don't allow my emotions to control this situation, it will work out. But I cannot stress enough how much of a process that truly is. And I know that these 7 things may sound overwhelming, but I promise you, they're really not. It's just about living your life in a way where you believe that you are worthy of good things. And because you believe that you are worthy of good things, you surrender to what God and the universe want to give to you. You don't try to fight it anymore. We always have been those people to want to fight it. And I mean, come on, let's keep it honest. We do. We want to fight it because 9 times out of 10, we don't believe that we deserve these things, but you do. And we have to stop believing that we don't deserve good things. This is a very transformative time. This is a time of preparation. Don't you know that if you didn't deserve good things, that you wouldn't be in this season? This wouldn't be happening to you. You wouldn't be getting aligned for the next level if you didn't deserve good things. So why are you acting like that's not something that you should have? Don't act like what the universe doesn't want to give you. If the universe is always trying to bless you, if the universe is always trying to move you, if the universe is showing you that you are due for something better, something greater, then that should be an indication to you that you deserve good things. And along that line, you have to remember you were born for greatness. You were destined to have good things. That's what you were born for. And this is your time. And don't let anything or anyone deny you of what you deserve. Because like I said, I wish I could talk more about this blessing and other blessings that I've had. But it is very difficult for me sometimes to put into words because it's like I feel like opening up my heart in such a way that I feel exposed and open. And I'm just not 100% ready with it. And I have struggled in my life. I have still struggle, and I have to speak over myself constantly to remind myself that I am worthy and that I am deserving. So I understand those struggles. But you have to be willing to understand and speak over yourself too. If you do this, it will come to pass and great things will come for you. They will. It really will. It's just you got to take a chance on yourself. You got to truly take a chance on God. You got to truly take a chance on what you are feeling, that pull inside of you. It's there for a reason because you are destined for so much more. And it's not going to go away. It'll die down, but it won't go away. It always comes back when they feel like, okay, I'm going to try to nudge again to see if they're ready to go to the next level. Don't be afraid to acknowledge your blessing. Don't be afraid to walk into your season. This is your time. You are worthy and deserving of wonderful things. Embrace it and open your arms and receive it. So I hope those 7 things will help you have more clarity on what you can do while you were in the season of preparation to surrender. And I know, like I said, I wanted to talk about more of the surrendering part because to me, that was the hardest part in this journey. It is the surrendering. It is still the hardest part because, self is a very powerful thing. But I want to make sure I give you those resources because I definitely think it will help you. And we will probably talk more about surrendering on the journey because surrendering is a lifelong journey. And again, we're in a season of preparation and we don't know how long the seasons will come and go. But I really do hope it will give you some guidance. So I will make sure that everything is linked in the show notes for you. I really want to thank you for continuing to support. And I hope I encouraged you today. I hope that you will take a step and please share any feedback that you have with me about what you're accomplishing because I'm expecting to see amazingly wonderful, great things happen for each and every one of you. I'm believing that for you because I know you are worthy of it all. So all my social information will be in the show notes. I have some great things coming up, so please stay tuned. Some other phenomenal women that I look forward to introducing you guys to. It is Friday night at 9:23 on September the 10th that I am recording. By the time you guys hear this, it will be on Sunday, September the 12th. So I do want to make sure that I kind of end this giving praise and reverence to and prayers to us, because we are about to go into the 20th anniversary, I believe, of September 11th. And that was such a life-altering moment for us all. So I am praying for all of us to just remember that we have so much to be grateful for, and to send prayers into the atmosphere for all the people that we lost during that time, all the people who were affected by that moment. It is something that we will never forget. And we have to remember that we have to come together more than just in times of tragedy. Hopefully moments like that remind us of what we are capable of when we come together and unite for each other, not just in hard times, but just in general. So just another part of the prayers that I will send into the world for us all. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will be back next week. I look forward to talking to you guys again soon. Take care of yourselves, love each other, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.